So Grant, we're glad you're with us today, and so glad that you're part of the program.
Well, it's nice to be back with you, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Grant, just take 30 seconds and talk to us about your former life, and you can use all your lame jokes that you want right now.
Actually, you could tell the story, really. So when I graduated, I became an anesthetist, and I moved to a small town here in Grimsby, Ontario. And in this town in the morning, I was an anesthetist, but in the afternoon, the ORs were closed, so I was a GP. And in my general practice, I had so many people come to see me with mental problems, emotional problems, problems with feelings, which I didn't know anything about. But these were mostly Christians, and they didn't know who to turn to, who to trust. And so I started to learn about how to help. And so I started treating people for depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. And then so many people got better. People came from all over North America, took over my life. So I stopped being an anesthetist. I stopped being a general practitioner. I had a mental health clinic for 25 years. And then my wife and I have been traveling around the world teaching people how to be transformed mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And I wrote a book, and I have an online course and all kinds of resources and a website. That's it. That's my whole life. That's my whole life, Mike.
We're going to make people aware of that. Grant, we want to talk about some serious stuff today. I think we need to smile a little bit in the midst of this journey. Let's talk about the battle for our mind. What is it that you recognize are the key things that cause people to either win or lose in this battle to control their mind?
Yeah, well, it's a huge subject, because what's going on between your ears determines the course of your life, how you think, feel, relate to other people. And so that is actually the most important determinant of what the direction your life's going. It's what's happening in your mind. So it's really important to realize that there are three parts to humans. The Bible says body, soul, and spirit. And each of these three parts have an enormous impact on how you think, feel, and relate to others. And so in the physical realm, that your nerve cells have to be working properly to give you thought control. And if they're not working properly, you have problems like depression, anxiety, and mood swings, mood problems. And then in the spirit realm, the enemy just loves to torment your mind and drop what I call his thought missiles into your mind to try to distract you, to tempt you, to torment you. And then in the soul or personality area, your personality is shaped by the events of your past, and more importantly, how you interpreted them, because that shaped your self-esteem, self-confidence, self-image. And that is a tremendous effect on what's going on in your mind and how you interpret reality and your relationships currently. And then on top of that, there are three sources of thoughts: yourself, God, and the enemy. And you have to be able to sort out the thoughts that you have. Where is it coming from? And which thoughts to pay attention to and which thoughts to ignore. So this is a big subject, Mike.
So let me just pick on one thing. Somebody comes into your office, and I know you can reference this, and you listen to them, you talk to them. The whole subject of the enemy. How do you convince people that we actually have an enemy called the devil? Because a lot of people just say, that's just psychosomatic.
Yes, well, of course, it all depends on what their worldview is. So if you're talking to someone who has a one-dimensional worldview, there's no point in even bringing it up.
Okay.
And so I just avoid the subject. But if you're talking to a Christian who would have a spiritual worldview, then they need to recognize the three sources of thoughts. And the way you spot an incoming thought from the enemy is its hallmark is it makes you feel worse. And so it's really important, if you have a spiritual worldview, to realize that thoughts that make you feel worse should be resisted. Now, of course, if you have a chemical imbalance like depression, anxiety disorder, then if your serotonin levels are low, your brain is going to be prone to negative thinking. So you need medicines to restore your serotonin level, give you back thought control. But if you have control of your thoughts and you're getting negative, tormenting, tempting thoughts, you need to recognize these are not your thoughts. These are coming from outside that must be resisted. The Bible says when you resist the devil, he'll flee.
So when I take all those thoughts that you've just shared, is there something that you put into your own life each day to control your mind? We referenced prior to coming on the show the fact that last night I was praying with a bunch of people. They had a variety of illnesses, some lesser and some greater. Referenced this morning a friend who lost their son, drowned. And those are horrific things. How do you address those emotional up and downs?
Well, actually, for a Christian, the foundation of thought control or winning the battle for your mind is your quiet time. your personal time with Jesus that you wall off. So what I do is I do it at the beginning of my day, which is when I text Mike. And so during my quiet time, that's when I connect to the presence of God. That's when I talk to him. That's when I hear his opinion on things. That's where I read his book and I read devotional books. And I start to focus my mind on what does he think? And that helps set my day in the proper pattern. So it's easier to spot the thoughts, the dark thoughts, or just my own stupid thoughts, because I'm already oriented in his direction. And so to me, being in the presence of God, worshiping, those are to me the key, the most powerful key preventative steps a person can take so that they win the battle for their mind.
Okay, I'm going to let Julie jump in right now because I know she's got a question that's kind of ties into that as well.
Yes, Dr. Grant, I'd like to ask, do you know what, let me start again. I'd like to know what you think is the best mental practice to begin our mornings. And you've already said that, and so in many respects, that worshiping, but is there anything else besides worshiping and like from the next step? We like get out of bed and we focus on God. Then anything else you can add to that?
Well, I mean, what I do is, I read a devotional book, I read the scriptures, and then I journal. And so then I have a conversation with Jesus and I write down the things he tells me.
Journaling, that's good.
And so now, of course, I didn't always do that. It's something I've grown into because I realize how powerful it is. I use a devotional book called Jesus Calling. It is just the greatest tool to orient your thinking to a conversation with Jesus. But I mean, there's lots of devotional books. That's just one that I came across. And so that just orients me to the voice of Jesus as I go through my quiet time. But it's very important. If you want to win the battle for your mind, you need to have quiet time in the presence of Jesus.
I agree.
Grant, you have a website. Tell us where it is because you provide huge resources for people.
Yeah, it's drgrantmullen.com, or you could just Google Dr. Grant Mullen. And so I send out a 5-minute video every Wednesday on how to live a transformed life, how to change the way you think. And I've got loads of resources available there. I've got a full page of just resources on how to do a mental health self-assessment, how to tell if you need to see a doctor for your moods. And then I have an online course called Free Your Mind that will actually walk you through all of the steps required to be transformed mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So we've put all of that online so you could do that from home on your phone.
Grant, I want to thank you. We're going to look forward to having you back on the program very soon. And right now, Julie is going to be talking with your beautiful wife. She's a lot prettier than you, Grant. I can only say that because I love you, man. And she's going to be right back.
Honest, Mike. You've got to be frank.
You got to be honest. And so Julie's going to come and talk with Kathy about a similar subject. Stay with us.